All right, with Sunday Night Football in the rear view, let's check in now with the rest of the Sunday action played under the sunlight. What? Starting with a game played no one has ever – people say under the moonlight. No one's ever actually said under the sunlight until this moment. Very proud moment for my in my broadcasting career, I have to say, Greg.
What game was under the sunlight? I'm on the edge of my seat.
Well, let's start across the sidewalk at SoFi Stadium. Whose house is this?
Kyler's house.
Oh.
Wow, that wasn't even playing.
Murray in shotgun, snap to Kyler, short set, moving to his right a little bit. Now throwing deep, far side, and it's pulled in at the 5-yard line by A.J. Green into the end zone for the touchdown. A.J. Green just too strong, too big, too athletic.
Oh, my goodness. A.J. Green making plays. You know you're in trouble, Rams Nation. Dave Pasch with the call, Cardinals Radio Network. Kyler Murray passed for 268 yards and 2 touchdowns, including that pass to A.J. Green. And by the way, I back off, Greg. A.J.'s been a net gain so far for that offense. Anyway, another MVP-level performance from Kyler, but this whole team steps up. The Cardinals remain unbeaten with a 37-20 trouncing of the Rams in Los Angeles. And, Greg, this is a game, again, not to keep mentioning this, but it does for what we do for a living. It just jumps out at you when we talk about all these things that we're worried about entering the season. He thinks, ooh, this guy better get his act together because he's not so good. Well, Cliff Kingsbury is a guy that got plenty of criticism and doubts heading into the season, and he just went into L.A. against a very good Rams defense, and he saw his guys put up 465 and just take it to the Rams. How about that?
They could have put a 40-burger on him. They had a chance, like early in the fourth quarter, to do so. And you're right. Before the season, it wasn't just us like kind of wondering about Kingsbury. It was everyone putting them last place in the division.
Right.
And here they are, 4-0. You could argue have the best resume of any team in the league. And I think with Vance Joseph in this defense, it reminds me a little bit of the old Saints Greg Williams defenses, or Greg Williams in general, where it's like they're pretty boom or bust, but they make big plays. And in the first half of this game, when they intercept Matthew Stafford, they force the fumble, and they get a lead. Like, they aren't looking back. Touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. And then in the second half, they go on these long drives against a Rams offense, which is almost begging them to run. And this time, they were able to do it. Like, James Conner didn't have a great game, but Chase Edmonds, 120 yards on the ground. And, like, they have these long drives, and the Rams couldn't get the ball back. It was one-sided.
They did.
Shocker.
They did whatever they wanted through the air, on the ground, and then on the other side of the ball. Okay, so you say, all right, so the Rams are struggling to stop a high-powered offense. That happens all the time in our league now. Then you're thinking, oh, it's going to be a shootout. But no, because Matthew Stafford, I would say this was his first game, and there was a little lipstick on the pig late. This is the first game where I would say he was ineffective. And, I think a big game-changing play, Greg, we talked about it in the third quarter. They get stopped at the goal line. It looks like Stafford got in. They decide not to challenge it, and you could understand why in Sean McVay's mind, why he did that. He's thinking, I can't risk losing the timeout here. I'm going to keep it in my back pocket because I need to make a comeback here. We're going to score. We have 2 chances to get in from the one, but they don't, and that to me was kind of the turning point of this.
Yeah, I mean, they would have had to make a great comeback, and I don't know if their defense could have helped it. Higbee doesn't catch the pass there, but it did kind of just get me thinking about how they just haven't been great in terms of handing the ball off. And maybe they won't need to. But I just thought coming into this game, the Cardinals' rush defense was vulnerable. They got steamrolled by Minnesota. I think Jacksonville pushed them around up front, actually, in the running game. And normally, with Jared Goff, the Cardinal killer, that's what you would have seen. I mean, we spent this whole year talking about what Jared Goff can't do. What he can do is beat the Cardinals 7 out of 8 times. And so this win has to feel really sweet for Cliff Kingsbury, because it's an offensive league and this is an offensive team. It just feels like they've now got enough pieces where his offense makes sense, because I've seen some people be like, Cliff is they're running the exact same plays. Like they are the same Cardinals offense, and now they have the talent to make it work, and they have, arguably the best quarterback in the league right now, one of the top couple.
I mean, as long as they could keep him healthy, they couldn't last year, and he's not the biggest guy, so you worry about how this works over 17 games. But if they can, they're going to continue to put up points, and the defense, if it plays at this level, they are going to win a lot of games. And they are 4-0 now, and they have a chance to really, despite everyone else going the other way preseason, including us, including everybody, they can win this division. They have that type of ceiling, and Sean McVay has coached against the Cardinals 9 times, Greg. This is the first time he went down.
Wow.
First time. So big performance. Jason Zumwalt dancing in the streets.
Is this a statement game? This is like maybe the statement game of the young season.
I mean, you know it, Greg, because I said it to you in the new newsroom. It's actually NU umlaut room. That I said it. That's a statement game. You don't believe in statement games. You're on Claiborne corner with that. Like, those things don't matter. Momentum doesn't matter. There's no such thing as statements. That's a statement because the Rams.
I don't know if I had an official position, but this gets
the
my
Rams
notice.
are in the locker room licking their wounds and thinking to themselves, "Oh, now we got to go to the desert to play them. These guys are for real."
They also know they got to have a quick turnaround play on Thursday night, another big division game, and suddenly the Cardinals are at the top of the division.
Call it the curse of the power rankings. The Rams, I hope you enjoyed your 6-day stay. It's over at number 1. Speaking of over, the undefeated season of the Denver Broncos, head to Mile High.
Broncos rush 4. Jackson with time, going deep. He's looking at Hollywood Brown at the 5. He reaches up, and he makes a diving catch. Hollywood Brown, welcome back to the end zone for a touchdown.
Jerry Sandusky, WBAL. See, my voice is back, Greg. It's not Money Smith, but when it's humming, it's fine. It's a good little weapon. Totally took a shot last week. Giancarlo Stanton buried me. It's all the way back.
I mean, if yours is a weapon, what's mine? You know, I don't know.
You answer that question.
I'm not going to.
Lamar Jackson threw for 316 yards, including that 49-yard touchdown pass to a diving Hollywood Brown. And thank God, Hollywood. You needed to catch that ball, and it was a nice catch. And the Ravens combined offensive prowess with another great defensive performance, or a great defensive performance, beating the Broncos 23-7. As I said, the Broncos were undefeated, no longer. Greg, Denver lost Teddy Bridgewater to a concussion in this game, but it sounds like this loss was about more than just that.
Yeah, Teddy gone at halftime. Score was 17-7 at that point. I keep this notebook that year after year.
Iconic.
Keep the notebook, and I never write the winner until the very end of the game, unless I'm feeling like ultra confident. When Locke came in, I wrote in Ravens. Left the score empty, wrote Ravens. I knew it was over, and I don't think it would have mattered if Teddy was out there. When Bridgewater was there, he threw the ball 16 times, got 65 yards. The Ravens dominated this game up front, and they're winning offensively in surprising ways to me. You would think a game where they're ahead the whole time, they're going to rush it 45 times. They're going to rack up these rushing yards. Rushing net today, 102 yards for the Ravens. They actually were pass heavy. Like, they still threw the ball 37 times and only ran it, I think, 30. They're going deep. It's not going to create a lot of consistency on offense, but Lamar hit a couple of the deep throws today. He had that one to Hollywood Brown, a couple nice throws to Mark Andrews, and it was like enough. They protected him, and the defense got after it. It just gets me thinking, like, whenever I doubt this Ravens defense over the last 5 or 6 years, it's just like they just find guys. They find a way. And Odafe Owe, their number 1 pick, to me, would be the defensive rookie of the year or the month, other than Micah Parsons. Like, Micah Parsons has just been crazy, but this guy Owe just has crazy athleticism where if you're into watching pass rushers, he's a good guy to just watch snap after snap because his athleticism is just outrageous.
So both teams punted on their first 3 possessions before finding the end zone. There was only 6 points, 2 Justin Tucker field goals in the second half. So a lot of this damage was done in the middle portion of the game. And Tucker, by the way, I heard, because everyone's caught up to the beauty of Justin Tucker. Now he gets the pregame reports that he was banging 70-yarders before this game in the light air of Colorado. And I'm too bad he didn't get a chance to do that. But yeah, I mean, I guess this is with the Broncos. It's a wait-and-see situation now with Teddy. It's a concussion. You never know which way that's going to go. But Drew Lock, I think you told me downstairs, the restless crowd in Denver does not want to see Drew Lock on the field. There were some boo birds out.
It was like mixed boos when he came out for the game. Now, maybe they didn't know Bridgewater was hurt at the time, and they thought they were just benching him, and they were like booing that decision partly. But Locke struggled. He didn't know what he was seeing. This happens. But his first 15 dropbacks, I think he had 56 yards passing, but had taken 3 or 4 sacks in that. So, like, net yards, they had almost nothing. They've just lost too many players. Bridgewater is their 8th starter who's now out. That's a lot. Like, 8's a big number.
That's a lot of attrition.
And, yeah, for a team that, I liked, but and was talented, that's just a lot going on there. And they lost Patrick Surtain very late in this game to a chest injury, so that would make 9. They need to get healthy, and I just give the Ravens a ton of credit for getting through this first month of the season 3-1. I know they got a little bit of a break there in Detroit, but ultimately, like, it was a tough first month schedule. They're gonna get healthier, and they're up. They're 3-1.
And I don't like to do too much look ahead on the Sunday night show because that's what we have later in the week. And by the way, later in the week we will be in London. Hello, let's get that out there. Remind the people that we will be on a plane and traveling to England for the Jets-Falcons game at the Big Tot. Looking forward to that. But you look at Denver 3-1 at Pittsburgh. Now that used to be a really tough game. I don't know what to make sense of the Steelers anymore. But after at Pittsburgh, home Raiders, at Browns, home Washington, at Cowboys. So if the Broncos are good, Greg, and if they can get some guys back, of course. But attrition's part of the game, Greg. So don't bail now.
Oh, I'm not bailing.
Yeah.
But it's also an important part of the game. It's Kendall Hinton, our old buddy who took quarterback snaps for them last year, now is like their third receiver. That was one of their top positions, and they did not get much of a pass rush. I'm fascinated. Just this Ravens team is just kind of, I think, confident that the Broncos wouldn't get much of a pass rush, and they're just dialing up plays a little differently this year, and they're winning this game pretty easily.
All right, let's move on. In fact, let's welcome in one of our favorite people. What's up, baby?
What's up, guys? How you doing?
How are you? How you feeling, buddy?
Wearing the NFL podcast merch.
Yeah.
Look at that. Look at all this stuff you stole before you went to Cleveland.
Hey, I got this recently, all right, for participation on this show.
That's true. You are a big member of the NFL podcast.
All right.
Community.
So the pipe is here. He is Western Ohio, born and bred, and he now gets to talk a little Cleveland football like it used to be played. Let's head to Minneapolis.
Takes the snap, and he's got it, and he's back, and he rolls to the left. He's throwing towards the end zone, and it is incomplete in the end zone. Incomplete in the end zone. Broken up by John Johnson III. That's the end of the game. And the Browns win it on the road here in Minneapolis. They've won 3 in a row.
Jim Donovan with a good call, WKRK. The Browns allowed a touchdown drive on the Vikings' first possession, but then the stout Cleveland D said that's enough, shutting out Minnesota in its ensuing 11 possessions in a 14-7 win at U.S. Bank Stadium. That's a big road win. Shooky, Myles Garrett and the Browns' front seven harassed Kirk Cousins, made them earn every single yard, and, Kevin Stefanski's got to be pinching himself in his return to Minnesota.
Yeah, he does. I don't know if I would say he's the prodigal son, but somewhere along those lines, returns, gets a hard-fought win, a really kind of an ugly game. If you're a fan of defense, you loved it, but offensively, there was a lot to be desired from both sides. Kirk Cousins marches them right down the field to begin with. They look like they've game planned well. They know exactly how to attack this Browns defense. They even convert a 4th and 1, and that was it. 5 3-and-outs from there. Kirk Cousins with an interception. They actually probably got one more chance than they deserved at the end and still couldn't convert. A concerning day for Vikings fans if you're thinking about your offense after you come off, scoring 30-plus points last week. You can't put more than 7 on the board. But if you're a Browns fan, 2 straight weeks where that defense has absolutely dominated, and it certainly won you this game today.
It's the most surprising thing to me that I saw today was that in the second half of this game, there were 14 possessions, and there were 3 points. And these were 2 of the best offenses in the NFL coming into this game. So explain that for me, Shooky.
Well, I could help you out with that as well, Greg, because Baker Mayfield played poorly in this game, including a kind of end-the-game touchdown, should have been walk-in for Odell, a misfire. His accuracy was out the door, and it's been that way for 2 weeks, Shook. What's going on with Baker?
Yeah, we talked about this last week, Greg. I think you said if a box score can tell a story, this might be the game that tells a story. Well, Baker Mayfield's box score can completely tell his story. He was poorly is putting it nice, Dan. And I don't mean to pile on a guy. I don't mean to pile on a guy who had a bad day. Baker was horrible today. The only thing he didn't do wrong was turn the ball over. This was probably his worst game as a pro in which he did not turn the ball over. 15 of 33 overall, missing guys at every depth of target on the entire field. Odell Beckham Jr. could have backpedaled into the end zone for a game-sealing touchdown if he puts it on him in the right spot. He was so errant that it made you wonder if maybe the shoulder injury that he had on his non-throwing shoulder was affecting him, because it was just that bad. It was inexplicable. But they were still good offensively on the ground. Nick Chubb, 21 carries, 100 yards, and Kareem Hunt really defined that offense in the first half, both in the running game and the passing game. He had a long pickup on a draw that ended up coming down to, or it kind of advanced the chains and put them in position to kick a field goal before half, which ended up being big. The Browns have been, you said that they're one of the better offenses in the NFL. Statistically, that might be true, but for the last 3 weeks, the Browns have really been kind of stuck in the mud offensively. The only difference in the last 2 games has been that their defense has really picked them up extremely in this game. So they still have a lot of things to figure out. And I think the biggest common underlying theme here is they don't have Jarvis Landry, and it's really hurting Baker Mayfield and his ability to move the ball through the air.
They ran for 184. I guess why I would put them there is they've been efficient passing the ball, and the running game is the best week after week overall. And they were able to in a game where both of these teams really want to run. Only one was able to, and that was the winning team.
And it might be annoying to Nick Chubb fantasy owners, but it just hums that offense when they have Kareem Hunt actively involved, and they're doing it as a two-headed monster. And it's good for Cleveland because it does bail you out when Baker has these games. And unfortunately with Baker, he has these stretches, it seems, because his inaccuracy this week especially, what really I struggle to wrap my head around Baker with this, Nick, because when he is on, he doesn't miss at all. Like, he'll have those 19 of 21 type games where he has Steve Young-like accuracy, and then this will happen. Is it a mechanical issue? Like, where does this come from where Baker is all over the map in terms of his accuracy?
Sometimes it comes within rhythm where he's just kind of out of rhythm, where he's, double clutching, that type of thing, forcing balls. That wasn't really the case today. The case was just he simply wasn't hitting open guys. I mean, it truly was difficult to explain watching it on TV, figuring out how you're missing a dump off to Kareem Hunt on third down. You're missing Odell down the field when he's open. You're missing guys at every depth, just throwing high passes through the hands of receivers. Somebody tweeted me early in the game and said, why aren't they catching Baker's passes? Because he threw a couple high ones that kind of went through their hands, but they were a little out of reach. By the fourth quarter, it was clear why they weren't catching him, because he couldn't put it in their catch radius. So he needs to figure that out, and he admitted after the game that he played very poorly. So if you're a Browns fan, you hope that he bounces back. But it's also really been a test, I think, of Kevin Stefanski and his ability to get into a rhythm as a play caller, because I think he's gotten a little too cute offensively. They definitely did 2 weeks ago against Houston. They did a little bit against Chicago. And then they did late in this game, where this is a team, as we all know, they're built to finish games by pounding it on the ground with Chubb and Hunt. And they had a possession late in the game where all they had to do was just get a couple first downs, chew the clock, and kind of salt away the victory. And they decided to throw it with a quarterback who wasn't accurate for most of the day. And that's what resulted in that Beckham incompletion on third down. And it was just like, that's not how you close out a game. That's not who you are. You need to go back to who you are and understand your identity. But they're 3-1. They're winning close games. Right. They're avoiding losing games that they very much would have lost in the past.
I do wonder if, like, his his latest ad, I feel like there's a little bit of a step down.
Oh, no.
And I just wonder if that's, like, getting in his head, like, because, he's not getting as much pub on
Mark might be listening. So
but he's been great in the past, but the latest one.
Oh, you think it's like the cut that meat? It's like you jump the shark in a way.
He needs to bounce back from the latest one.
Well, perhaps. And on the Viking side, before we move on, I'll just mention this. As great as they looked last week, I didn't think they necessarily looked even terrible. I'm just terrible in this game on offense. I think it was just a really good Cleveland defense that was locked in. But Dalvin Cook aggravated that ankle issue, and he was able to come back in the game when they were trying to get that late score. But it's just something to track, because Cook, we know, has his injury issues, staying healthy. And if it's something that he was forced to sit out multiple series, it's something that he might have to deal with for a long time this season, if not for the balance of the season. So keep an eye on that for Minnesota. All right, we're going to move on to Big D, the Cowboys rising, right after this.
Prescott in the gun, looking right, pumps, throws it down, caught by Wilson at the 5, spin move, free, strolling in, walking the dog, opening the gate, painting the fence, touchdown, Cedric Wilson.
Zeke Elliott went 20 for 143, and Dak Prescott threw 4 touchdown passes, including that game icer to Cedric Wilson. The Cowboys romp. Forget about the final score. 36-28 it was over the Panthers, also knocked from the ranks of the unbeaten. But this turned into a blowout. Shook, the Cowboys look like an offensive force, while the Panthers learn this football thing is hard against the good teams.
Yeah, an offensive force that's missed his rushing attack and number 21 for a little over a year, who definitely went back to his premier form this week. Zeke was fast. He hit the holes hard, and he ripped off multiple long runs that really got their offense going. And you have to give credit as well to Tony Pollard, who was like the perfect complementary back to Zeke. And they both were gashing Carolina's defense in the first half and the second half. Zeke ripped off a 47-yard run in the second half that kind of propelled them toward another scoring possession, and kind of basically it was like almost the dagger in that game as part of that run in the second half where they overcame a deficit. But it was a complete effort from them offensively. Dak didn't even have to do that much. He only threw 22 passes because Zeke was doing so well on the ground, and Tony Pollard, Dak ran a little bit as well. And the defense, this is something that we gave the Cowboys so much grief for last year, was their sieve of a defense. And instead, this year, Dan Quinn's work is starting to show, namely in the way that Trevon Diggs has played. He had 2 interceptions again today. They both led to points, 10 total points overall, 1 touchdown and a field goal. And other guys like Micah Parsons are playing really well. As a group, they're playing total team defense. It's all coming together, and we're starting to see a Cowboys team. This is not hyperbole here, but we are starting to see a Cowboys team that is potentially fulfilling what we thought we'd see from them last year or the year before on paper. They're starting to really bring that to life on the field so far. And this is probably, I know they had a big win on Sunday night last week, but this is probably their most impressive win to date.
I mean, I don't think it's not like you need to wait to hype up the Cowboys. If they're not the best the offense in the league, they're second or third at worst. I mean, they're unstoppable. It's not like you need to see much more than that. The defense doesn't even need to be good for them to be Super Bowl contenders. They threw the ball 26 times last week, scored 41 points. They threw it 22 times this week, scored 36 points. The Panthers supposedly, statistically had the best rush defense in the league coming into this game. The Cowboys set a record where it was 5.5 yards before contact on average running the ball in this game. So that is just an offensive line that is steamrolling opponents, and now we know they can steamroll good opponents. And if the running game is that good, Dak, making the decisions and being able to be so accurate, I don't know, man. I would take them over any offense in the league right now.
I think the stat that kind of proved, because this is a litmus test for them, right? At least a little bit against a defense that was playing with its hair on fire through the first 3 weeks in Carolina, and we were like, well, we'll see how the Cowboys do against this defense. Maybe they are for real, maybe they're not. The Cowboys scored 36 points and had 245 rushing yards Sunday, right? Before that, the Panthers had only allowed 30 total points and 135 rushing yards in their first 3 games. Right. So you want to talk about dominance in a statement game, it was definitely that.
It's a great reminder of defensive rankings is almost entirely predictive on the teams you've played.
Right.
If you just do the math to it. Because in this game, I think they almost had a Golston, which is our word for no quarterback hits, no sacks. I believe they touched Dak 1 time.
And we could be better, by the way, as a football industry. When you go throwing around things like, wow, it's going to be some showdown between the high-flying Cowboys and football's #1 defense, the Panthers, whoa. You have to earn I don't care about the statistical side of things. You have to earn that type of title. And they didn't put up any resistance, Carolina. But what about on the offensive side of the ball? First game, full game without Christian McCaffrey. Did you see anything in the running game while McCaffrey's out to build on? And what about Sam Darnold?
Well, the headline in the running game is Sam Darnold's 2 rushing touchdowns, but I'll get to that in a second because Chuba Hubbard does deserve a little bit of credit. He has been a pretty hard runner for them and a decent replacement for McCaffrey, but he's obviously not Christian McCaffrey, and they do need more on the ground overall. Having said that, Sam Darnold's 2 rushing touchdowns today, 5 rushing touchdowns in the year. He's putting up outrageous rushing numbers when it comes to touchdowns for quarterbacks, especially from a guy like him. He scrambled on multiple attempts to pick up first downs and keep them moving.
He can move.
Yes, but the thing is I still need to see a little bit more from him in terms of consistency through the air. He threw 2 interceptions today that immediately led to points for the Cowboys and totally swung the game in favor of Dallas. I mean, Carolina was punch for punch with them through the first half and into the third quarter. Sam's mistakes put them in a position where they had to fight, an uphill battle, and they basically ran out of time. I do give them credit, though. It's a young team, and they fought to the end. They just kind of ran out of time. But if they didn't dig themselves that hole, which Sam basically dug for them, then we might be talking about a different outcome and potentially a statement win for the Panthers. So right now, we've all talked about how Sam has improved in so many different areas, but the couple of the areas that we know that he still hasn't gotten better at, ball security when getting sacked. He didn't really fumble the ball away today, even though he got sacked 5 times. But those 2 interceptions proved to be the difference.
And that just like on the defensive side of the ball. And that's not to totally denigrate what they did in the first 3 weeks, because they did win 3 games. But the true test with Darnold has yet to come. And maybe this sounds like it was a little up and down, obviously. All right, one more game with Shooky. Let's head to Lambeau Field.
And the snap. Rush on. Rodgers with time initially. Waits. Throws. Left side. He's got Randall Cobb barreling to the end zone. Touchdown, Green Bay.
That's why Aaron wanted his boy Randall back. Wayne Larrabee with the call. WTMJ, I guess. Whatever. Rodgers connected with Randall Cobb for 2 touchdowns, and he ran for another score. Rodgers did, as the Packers beat the Steelers 27-17, their 3rd straight win. Rodgers was steady here, Shooky, but Pittsburgh now has lost 3 straight after that Week 1 win in Buffalo, and they haven't scored more than 17 points. So are we at an era in any of those games? Are we at a place now in Steelers football where anything involving a shootout, they're just not going to be competitive?
Yes, although I don't know if necessarily they'll be in a ton of shootouts if their defense is healthy.
Okay.
Their defense is what kept them in this game today. But when it comes to them possessing the ball, it is a struggle. I remember a couple weeks ago or so, Greg had said about Carson Wentz, why does everything have to be so hard? That is the Steelers. Why does everything have to be so hard for them with the football in their hands on 4th and less than 5 or less than 7? It is a disaster. It's comical. Like, it's to the point where I hope they get the ball 4th and 7 or less, because I want to see how they're going to mess it up. They, again, 4th and 1 today. They come out, trips bunch tight to the left, Najee Harris and the gun to the right. And I sit there and look at the screen. I go, this is a dump off to Harris. And guess what? Everybody in Lambeau Stadium, including the Packers' entire defense, namely Jair Alexander, they also knew that was coming. Dump off to Harris, loss of yards, turnover on downs. 4th and 5 later. What do? A 1-yard drag to Juju Smith-Schuster, who gets wrapped up and reaches out in vain, a full 6 feet short of the first down line to gain on 4th and 5. Another turnover on downs. That right there captures what the Steelers are offensively. They cannot move the ball quickly. They do move the ball sometimes, but they can't convert the downs that they need to. It all starts with Ben Roethlisberger, also that offensive line that's still young, cannot create a lot of room for Najee Harris to work. Doesn't give Ben Roethlisberger a lot of time to throw, but his lack of mobility, his age is very much showing. 26-40 today, 78.3 passer rating after a 1-to-1 touchdown interception.
I think he's in the Gabbard zone here again.
Very much. It's ugly. We are getting to the point where I tweeted today. It's mind-numbing watching them try to move the football. It is absolutely perplexing.
The end is it rarely ends well for these guys, and it's happening like we saw with Eli Manning and the Giants, who's in the same draft class. It's happening now for Big Ben, and I just wonder, Shook, and by the way, do you think Juju Smith-Schuster is reconsidering that decision to stay in Pittsburgh?
That's what I was. Eight targets today for 11 yards. The only decision worse than bringing back Ben was Juju picking the Steelers.
I think he took less money
over the Chiefs. I don't buy that. I think that was a little PR. But either way, he could be catching passes for Patrick Mahomes.
I mean,
right
it feels like, Shook, that if it was another situation, and it's what got Ben McAdoo fired in New York, by the way, when you're like, let me move away from the veteran who's won me Super Bowls, but they don't really have anybody back there that, unless you're a Dwayne Haskins fan or a Mason Rudolph guy, I guess they're going to ride it out. Or do you think there's any chance we might start hearing some rumbles about job security here?
Well, that's the thing is, a good friend of mine, I do a podcast with, his name's Sean, a small plug there.
Get the plug in.
He's a Steelers fan.
What's the podcast?
Yeah. It's the Sean and Shook podcast. You can find it
all right,
on
now
your
Greg
podcast
wants to know when you tape it, because then he's going to criticize your rollout.
I'm just trying to. He tried to promote his own podcast. He didn't say the name. That's all.
No, I know, not the marketing genius right here. He's a Steeler fan, and we've talked about this at length. It's just he's like, do we see a change? And I'm like, as well as I know that's not going to happen because of who Ben Roethlisberger is. What I fear for Steeler fans, I know it's early, but what I fear for them is that this turns into a Derek Jeter retirement tour. And as the Steelers try to work out the kinks and point to their youth at so many other positions, they just ride it out until the end of the season and then take the next step. The thing is you mentioned Mason Rudolph. He's not even under team control. So, like, beyond this year. So it might not be him. It might end up being Dwayne Haskins. There's no clear plan, like you said, which I think also points to the fact that I don't think they move on from Ben because they have nowhere else to go. I just think they kind of take their lumps and try to figure it out as they go. My real question is, Randy Fichtner took all the heat last year for their offense's, just breakdown down the stretch last year.
Blame Canada time.
Yeah, does he get held to the same standard? Because I'm not seeing anything better except for some pre-snap motion. That's it.
No, I think you can blame the players. I think it's fine to. It's fine to blame the offensive line.
Unless Jason Garrett's the OC, and then Greg would blame
I'm
Jason
saying
Garrett.
in this case, like, what's the commonality? What's the commonality?
No, it's all there. It's all laid bare for the Steelers. And this was always within the range of outcomes. And we're not writing them off. It's October 3rd or whatever. But this was always within the range of outcomes when we were talking about this team leading into 2021. It could go bad. So far, it's been bad.
They're 2 games behind 3 different teams in their division. We should give some credit, though, to the Packers. When I watch them, especially like today, like, they to me seem like the purest Shanahan offense there is right now. Like, they got the outside zone running against the Steelers, which to me is impressive. Aaron Jones didn't pop off in terms of his numbers, but he had a couple of big plays. Like, the week 1 seems so far away for both of these teams.
Yeah.
It's just a long way away for both these teams.
Yeah, you have to be excited if you're a Packers fan just from the consistency you're seeing from this offense. Yeah, they didn't put up a ton of points, but they moved the football effectively. And the Steelers got away with what I think was a tripping call that ended up being a sack credited to T.J. Watt that kind of stalled a drive that was probably going to end up in a touchdown for them as well. So maybe 4 more points on the board for them there. They are consistent. They're effective. It seems like they've worked through their growing pains that they had in week 1. And, when you get a guy like Randall Cobb, 2 touchdown passes, you're like, hey, we don't have to just go to Devontae Adams. We can go to a number of different guys and still score points. So, I have nothing bad to say about them. Jair Alexander was carted off after this game, during this game after he made that tackle on Najee Harris. So hopefully that they avoid something serious there with that. But overall, you have to feel confident about them.
All right, Chucky. Thank you, buddy. We're going to be, obviously, in London taping our show next Sunday. I don't know what that means time zone-wise, whether you're going to be involved with our show, but if it all syncs up, we'd love to see you over the ocean next week, buddy. Thank you.
Yeah, we can do that virtually, Just we have to agree now. No usage of across the pond.
No across the pond.
Okay.
All right.
No across
moratorium on across the pond. There
all
goes Shooky. Let's head to the link where the Chiefs try to get back on track.
3rd and 6 for the Chiefs. Last play before the 2-minute warning. Chiefs are going to throw it here. And Mahomes is throwing it up. He's got Tyreek Hill open and hauls it in. Touchdown! Kansas City! Mahomes saw what he wanted. Single coverage and a whole half of the field to let the cheetah run as far and as long as he could.
Mitch Holtis, WDAF. Matt Money Smith, the voice of God in this podcast, having like a tantrum on the power rankings this week.
Wait, you guys do a show together?
We do every Tuesday. NFL Network, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. About the Chiefs being in trouble and their offense being in trouble. Oh, please. You got Patrick Mahomes. That's the answer. Then he threw 5 touchdown passes in many ways. He threw like a skee ball shot for a touchdown. He did a shovel for a touchdown. He threw a deep bomb there to Tyreek for a touchdown. Tyreek had 3 touchdowns. 42-30 win. Chiefs over Eagles. And, this is what Kansas City looks like when they play a cleaner game on offense. And they hadn't been clean in recent weeks. The killer fumble against the Ravens late in that game. 4 turnovers last week in an upset loss. And now you play a clean game. You get 42 points. The other team's going to score because the Chiefs continue, Greg, to have issues on defense. But the Eagles, as they did last week, kill themselves, and 2 weeks ago as well, kill themselves with unforced errors. 3 touchdowns negated by penalty.
Oof.
Resulting in 3 4-point plays. That's what the old Mike Lombardi saying. He probably took him from Parcells. When you leave a touchdown on the field, kick a field goal, you lose 4 points. Well, do the math. 3 of those, I'm not great at it. 4 times 3 is 12. You lost 42-30. Pain.
They led the league in penalties coming into this week. I think they had set the Eagles record for most penalties in a 3-week span. That's concerning.
Yeah.
Not shocking. I mean, the Chiefs actually lose the turnover battle in this game 1-0, and they still put up 42. It's funny because with the Chiefs, it's like people are like, they haven't really developed their offense. They haven't really like changed it that much in the last few years, and they're not really getting anything beyond Tyreek Hill and Kelsey. And it's like, yeah, you don't even really need to, and you still put up 42 on the Eagles, and the only reason the Chargers beat you is because you've turned it over 4 times. So I'm not worried about the offense. They got the running game going, which I think is a big sign for them because I think they will need to run it efficiently at least to be the team that they need to. They're going to have to put up 40 each week at this rate.
They will. By the way, speaking of offense, no defense, we got a little jackpot in this game. And this surprised me. For only the 4th time, that's our jackpot sound effect. For only the 4th time, I thought it was going to be more like you would hear the coins falling, Ricky, and maybe some buzz in the crowd. Let's work on our jackpot sound effect for next week.
Yeah, I mean, I think, the crowd ambiance, that's a bad job on me. I should have assumed.
No, I
you
mean,
wanted a whole
I'm not
casino.
pointing fingers. I'm saying I think we, the collective we, could be better
I know,
with that.
for sure. Yeah, totally.
No punt game. Hit it again.
Oh, wow.
Hit it again. Jackpot, baby. Brent Musburger is going to sue me because for only the 4th time in NFL history, Greg, there was no punts in a game, and it happened here. The Chiefs scored every time they had the ball except for one Mahomes INT. And the Eagles, they killed themselves with mistakes. Otherwise, they were moving the ball well. I thought Jalen Hurts was good in this game.
Fantasy god, Jalen Hurts.
Yeah,
seriously, he is a top 5 quarterback at worst.
And because even when they're getting blown out, he finds a way in the end zone a couple times late, and he did it again this week after he did it on Monday night. But if the defense is going to get lit up like this week after week, they are just not. The Cowboys are going to leave that entire division in the dust.
I just think they got stuck playing the Cowboys and the Chiefs every week. But it's pointed out that any hope that the Eagles defense was special and anything beyond just average is hoping for too much. That's insane. The Chiefs went 6 for 6 scoring touchdowns. It's one thing to put up 42. It's another thing to do it in 7 possessions. I mean, I don't know. That's crazy. That's the thing. It's like you got to shorten the game against the Chiefs. You got to make them work hard. It's like, okay, once again, you just shortened the amount of time it takes to lose.
Right. I feel like the recipe.
There's no answer. There's no answer.
I mean, unless you're the Tampa Bay Bucks in the Super Bowl, it's going to be very hard to cook up a scheme to actually stop the Chiefs. So then it becomes something else. It means your offense has to have a big day.
You got to get turnovers.
And you have to get turnovers. And that's how you beat the Chiefs. And the Eagles were unable to do anything to match the Chiefs on offense in this game. And the one turnover was all that they were able to get in that game. So
good
that's
sign
it.
for the Philly offense. I know some of it was late, but still 30 first downs. That feels good after the last
Yeah, the
couple
Chiefs.
weeks
I mean, if you're a Chiefs fan, you're frustrated because you can't get off the field. But it must be nice to have Patrick there to clean up all the messiness. The Chiefs back to 500. Let's move on.
Jones out of the gun. Handoff Saquon. Slices right to the end zone and in for the touchdown, and the Giants win it in overtime. Saquon Barkley on a 6-yard run. Here's your alpha dog.
Let's give the Giants a little it's on in New York City. They deserve it for this one. It's on in northern New Jersey.
It's on in New Orleans.
Saquon Barkley ran for a 6-yard TD in overtime after Daniel Jones passed for a career-high 402. And the G-Men rally for the first win of the season, 27-21 over the Saints. Greg, and I know this one hurts you, and you heard Greg. I almost could hear him whimpering. I can't see him over the screen, but when he's suffering, I can feel it. And when it's the Giants of all teams coming back on the Saints in the return to the Superdome, my goodness, they had it all set up, Greg. 21-10, fourth quarter lead. What the hell happened?
21-10 and with the ball, and I think that sequence. And Giants fans, I'll give you your love shortly because you guys, they deserve it. It was a great comeback. The Saints get the ball up 21.
Magnanimous of you.
I'm just saying because
Hey,
that
Giants fans, you deserve it.
that was the story, and that's where I was going to go first, but you set me up in a particular way, so you got to go with the host. They're up 21-10.
Was that a shot at me?
No, I'm just answering your
Gotcha.
question. I've now wasted 40 seconds that none of you listening will ever
It's
get
on. All right, go ahead.
New York City.
All right, go ahead.
In that sequence with the Saints getting the ball, it was 2nd and 3. I remember it well. And it's about 8 minutes left, and you think, oh, they're just going to run over the Giants. But
Sure.
the Giants are built pretty well to stop the run. And no matter how much the Saints just kept looking for that big Kamara play, they weren't quite getting it. They ran the ball 39 times in this game, I believe, and they only threw it 23. The New Orleans Saints, like in a close game.
It's different now.
They stuffed Kamara to make it 3rd and 2, and then you bring out Taysom Hill. And there's a lot of Taysom Hill today, and there was a lot of good. You got a couple touchdowns, and there was some bad. You got an ugly interception, and you got him getting stuffed on this 3rd down. And I just think the way the Saints are playing football right now, it's a really slim margin for error. I think that Sean Payton is trying to play to his defense and play to his running game. And there were points in this game where even though at one point Jameis hit 12 straight passes, it felt like they were just hoping Jameis would not lose the game. And that's where, like, hey, let us go win the game here, Jameis. Let's not be conservative. Let's not run the ball. And that happened a couple times late in this game, and it gave the Giants a chance. And to the Giants' credit, they took advantage.
This is such a transition for the Saints because the way you're talking about how they're using Jameis, who, by the way, his box score tells a story of a good game. He had a 119 passer rating. But using Alvin Kamara like this, 26 carries for 120 yards, you never used to see Kamara in that type of role
and
as
no
a running
receptions,
back.
which is not using,
Right. And then, so you have that side of things. And so the Saints kind of are still figuring themselves out. And I know we talked about, Greg, I think you even made a case for them having the best defense in the league. They took a step back. They're figuring themselves out. The Giants, on the other hand, I think, yes, like you did, Greg, and that was very nice of you. Again, magnanimous. You got to give them credit because everyone thought the season was over last week, and perhaps it is. Perhaps the Giants stink, and they're going to end up – we'll look back at this in a couple of months, and they'll be 2-9 or whatever. But when you lose that game the way you did to the Falcons, to go on the road in that supercharged atmosphere and find a way to come back, and I think Saquon Barkley is a key to all this. Well, two things. Daniel Jones, again, when you look at his – game-by-game results, and I haven't seen this game yet, but I'm looking forward to it. He seems like he's making progress as a passer. And then you factor in Saquon, who I thought he looked very close to peak, maybe not peak, but star Saquon last week. And now you look at the numbers again, and he is a huge factor in their running game. And as a receiver, that's big news for the Giants.
126 yards from scrimmage. Right after that sequence I was talking about, the Giants get one of their 2 one-play drives in this game. It was kind of a freaky game. They had a one-play drive in the first half, first touchdown of the game, 52 yards to John Ross after a weird Sean Payton decision. I'll get to that one. And then another one-play drive, Saquon Barkley for 54, where he beats Marshawn Lattimore. So that tells you it was a great play call by Jason Garrett, and they fooled Lattimore, who did not think Barkley was going to cut it upfield. Beautiful pass. Daniel Jones played so clean. 402 yards, 2 scores. His pick was on a Hail Mary interception at the end of the first half, so that's not even against him. No mistakes, has made great decisions. You're right about Barkley, and I don't think you could have a more positive game in terms of the Giants' offense because not only did Barkley, make those big plays, including the game winner. It's awesome when you get the game-winning touchdown in overtime and that long play. But Galladay was so big in this game, 6 for 116. And Kadarius Toney, their first-round pick, who everyone's been killing Gettleman for, has an amazing burst to his – I mean, he is explosive. So these injuries that they got to Shepard and Slayton, especially when those guys come back, maybe it's good because it made them come up with something for Toney. And he was beating Paulson Adebo, who's, been pretty good as a rookie cornerback, but they picked on him all day. His miscommunication set up the game-winning touchdown against Galladay. Toney had a number of big plays in this game, including like a 3rd and 19 conversion. I was really impressed by him. So I almost thought, wow, Ross and Toney on the field, like we're cooking with some speed here, this Giants offense. I know they didn't move it all game, but at 485 yards, that's pretty good.
I mean, to be without their – I know Galladay is their number 1, but he hadn't been it to this point. To play without 2 top receivers and still get 400 from Jones. That's a big thing. So
485 total. And I do, before we move, though, I do want to point out Sean Payton. Sorry.
Yeah, no.
Just seems like he had a weird game. He decided not to kick a 46 or 7-yard field goal in the first half, and he went for it on 4th and 3, and he hands it off to Kamara. They don't get it. So 4th and 3 now. Again, conservative. Like, that's a running down now. Didn't work. Then, like, the next drive, it's almost in his head. It's 4th and 2, and they're further back, and they decide to kick a 58-yarder with Rosas, who hasn't made a kick in weeks, and they miss that. Very next play, John Ross. With the touchdown. Like, there was another sequence where a penalty overturns a Jameis throw. Very next play, they put Taysom Hill to throw it deep, and he throws a wounded duck about 15.
Twitter was buzzing about that one.
About 15 yards behind an open receiver. I think it was Harris, who, if he hit him, it was a touchdown. Throws it way back. And then they blew, and this is what killed me, they blew all 3 of their timeouts, like, early in the second half. And they needed him at the end of the game. They could have tried to set up for a game-winning field goal. And those timeouts were gone, like, 2 in the third quarter and 1 early in the fourth. He just seemed like he was on the fritz a little bit. Jameis actually played well once he settled into this game. They should have let him throw a little more. It was not a good Sean Payton game.
Obviously, Greg on tilt right now.
I am. Sorry. I'm honking. I had a lot to say about that game.
Listen, it's okay to be the honky-tonk man. This is your new favorite team. And I just want to – well, the Saints, you love.
No, you're so off on this. I'm not feeling this emotionally. This
one. They're a hard team to figure out right now. I don't know. I have to watch this one, but they are through 4 games all over the place.
We do have to give it up to Darius Slayton before we go too.
Yes.
For the all-time coin flip performance.
Really?
I think in NFL history, not Darius Slayton. I'm sorry. Jabril Peppers, who was out with an injury.
Limps out there.
But he fights through it. He's out for the game with an injury. He fights through it, goes out to midfield, and puts up one of the all-time coin flip performances.
You're our visiting team. You have the choice. This is tails. This is heads. Heads is the call. And it is heads.
We want that ball.
That's why we got the kick.
Yes.
Kick it that way.
I'm confident. We want that ball. F them. That was just so good.
Almost always when someone says, I'm confident, they are not confident. But in this case, I absolutely believed it. Who was that?
Jabril Peppers.
See the Odell trade keeps on paying dividends. Wow. All right, let's move on.
And this will be a 49-yard.
Oh, it's on in New York City.
Hash. If he misses, the Jets win. Out of the hold of Townsend. The snap clean, the placement down, the kick on the way. Does it have the distance? It floats left. It's no good! It's no good! He pulled it left!
This is the end of the game.
And the Jets win it in overtime on the missed field goal by Bullock. They've got their first win of the season.
You know, Bob Wischusen is such a great play-by-play guy. We never hear him on the show because the Jets never win. But they won today. Let me have this, Greg, because it just never happens anymore. Randy, not so dandy. Randy Bullock was wide left on a potential tying 49-yard field goal. 15 seconds left to give the Jets their first victory, 27-24 over the Titans at MetLife Stadium. Nice little home field advantage. Jets fans turned out. I was happy. This is a game, Greg, where it felt like more of the same early on, where the Titans, who were obviously, they're missing A.J. Brown. They're missing Julio Jones. So you knew they were going to be up against it from a passing standpoint. They were going to have to lean on Derrick Henry even more than they usually do. And in the early going, it seemed like it was going to be fine because the Jets' offense was just never going to get going, but then it did. The boy who shall lead us showed something here, Greg. I can't wait to go back and look at some of these plays again because those plays when you heard the Mormon Mahomes stuff, when Tony Romo said the things that he said, it was a couple of the plays in this game where he keeps his eyes downfield, he scrambles, he's fading towards the sideline, and then he just, and the ball comes out of his hand. Remember in Tecmo Bowl and like the Joe Montana pass would just go right into Jerry Rice's hands? Like couple of these throws, and there was a big, I think it was a Corey Davis touchdown where
that was a sick. That was
he had his eyes
throw.
on. Not only did he, it was off platform. He recognized that the safety had cheated up, and he pointed to Corey, "Get your ass downfield," and then drills him with the big throw to put him ahead. And it was uneven because he also missed a couple of throws that could have put the game away, and it felt like the Titans were going to go and get the Jets, but they got some luck down the stretch. A ball that maybe the tight end, Anthony Ferkser, should have had that could have set him up at the goal line or even to win the game in OT. The Titans take a delay of game penalty that killed them, that set up the Bullock miss, and the Jets get to celebrate. Also getting to celebrate for the first time, let's welcome my old man, Keith Hansis, back to the podcast. First time in the new studio.
He's Dad's dad. No doubt about it, he's a big Jets fan. What is he gonna say about the game today? What is he gonna say about the game today?
Great win by the Jets tonight. The Jets finally breaking into the win column after losing the first three, and losing those first three pretty bad. So I think Wilson showed a lot of guts the way he played today. He's been taking a lot of heat in the papers, and, I'm really proud of the way the whole team, both the offense and defense, came together and gutted out a great win. So, Jets, Jets, Jets.
There you go, Keith Hansis. Greg, this is the progress that we talked about, the progress we hope to see in this game, the Jets being fun to watch, and at the Titans' expense, who they're killing themselves because, we need to go up there and beat the Jets. And here they're asking questions about themselves now, too.
Right, and they have to give Henry 33 carries. I guess it'll never come back to haunt them, his workload, but, man, it's big. Jeremy McNichols is their leading receiver, and Chester Rogers. You would just, if you're Mike Vrabel, you've been around for a while. I know there's a lot of new parts, but you would have liked to have a defense that could close this game out, not give up this many fourth-quarter points to the
Let's
Jets.
bring in Graver. Justin Graver, he's such a big Titans fan. He's got his own podcast. I'm not here to rub it into you, Justin, but I felt like you should have the platform. What are you seeing from your Titans? How much did this one hurt?
I mean, it doesn't hurt that bad to me. Yes, I think if you're an NFL fan of any other team, you can say we didn't have the day the Titans had. But this division is such a mess that I feel like by the end of the season we're going to forget that this game happened. I'd like to forget it right now, actually. I'd like to pretend this game didn't happen.
They are playing with a big margin for error in
right.
that division.
Yeah, no, I think that they can survive in that division, this loss. But it just shows they're another team like the Saints. It's kind of hard to make sense of them right now, but also with the injuries that they're dealing with at the wide receiver position, they got to get healthy because they're just way too predictable on offense, and the offensive line didn't protect Tannehill either. So
it felt like every third down was just a sack. Every third down was a sack, right? I mean, that was crazy.
There was a stat from I think PFF it was, or Next Gen Stats, that the Jets had 4 players with 6+ pressures, which is the most players with that many pressures of any team in 5 years. So it's not just one guy beating them. Everyone's beating them play after play. They did have 93 plays, which is outrageous, which makes me a little bit worried about that Jets defense, who's about to hop on a plane. But thank you to the Jets, so that we're not going to cover a game with 2 winless teams. We didn't need any jokes about that. The Jets are coming in with a chance to get to 2-3.
Instead it's 2 one-win teams. That's exciting. But the Jets defense has been good this season. C.J. Mosley's been really good. Quinnen Williams is really heating up now. There's some progress here, and let's see if they can build off it. Let's now take a quick break and hear from our sponsors. All right, let's move on.
They're going to throw here. Heineke's got time. Now slides to his left. Looks at the 35. Back across the middle of the field. At McKissick at the 30. Turns to the 25. Has the corner of the 20. 15, 10, 5. Dive for the end zone. Touchdown. Where's the call? Make a call, referees.
Man.
Touchdown. Touchdown, Washington.
Great call by Bram Weinstein, WTEM. One of my favorite plays of Week 4 was Tyler Heineke off platform, swings it over to J.D. McKissic, who does the rest, diving into the end zone with 33 seconds to play. After a Hail Mary falls unanswered by the Falcons, Washington football team escapes with a 34-30 victory, locking it up for the old Zeuser. But I can't really. I mean, that's 3 in a row for Zeuser, by the way.
This is championship. Lock runs are mostly about lucky breaks.
This was one of them.
This was a big one.
So I picked. You never pick a mediocre team on the road. That was mistake number 1. You never typically get behind a defense to deliver a dominant performance when they've shown nothing to suggest that's coming, which I did as well, and that didn't happen. So young and sweaty. I think I called them on our TV show last week, Yuck and Stinky, something like that. It was brilliant. But that's still the case. They're not getting stops. But luckily they were against the Falcons, who cannot close out a game. They had no business losing this game, and yet they did.
Right. I mean, not only did they give up those two touchdowns in the final 4 minutes, they gave up a kick return touchdown to start the second half. So it's like a lot. Like when you get a kick return touchdown, I always feel like you better win that game, especially in Atlanta. And they were still at the point where they're down 8 going into it. And if you just look at those 2 touchdowns, that's the Heineke experience in a nutshell. The first one was a ridiculous throw, not in a good way. He just threw the Jameis Winston, I'm falling, I don't care, I'm just going to throw it up. And maybe that's not a bad idea when Terry McLaurin's on the other side. My guy goes 6 for 123 and 2 touchdowns in this
That's
game.
your guy.
And he just outmuscles the cornerback and catches the pop-up with 3:50 left. And then that play with McKissic, that's a good play by Heineke, but it also is extremely unconventional, and he's just like running to the opposite side.
Right, that's been a pick six about 5,000 times in the history of our league.
And it's good, he had his wherewithal enough to spot McKissic in that spot. He knew where his check down was, and there was nothing over there. That's a brutal loss.
Heineke, and he grew up in this area, in the Atlanta area. He completed 23 of 33 for 293 touchdowns. Yeah, some luck was involved, but he's got some juice to him, and
he's Fitzpatrick light. I mean, this was another one. Those were Fitzpatrick throws.
Right, and we'll see where Ryan Fitzpatrick is and where the Washington football team is when Fitzpatrick is potentially ready. But Heineke, I think, is making a case for being the guy right now. And I just want to say this for the Falcons before we move on. But Cordell Patterson, who for years and years, people have been trying to figure out this guy. How do we make him work on our offense? He's such a dynamo on special teams. How do we unlock Patterson? And I guess they have. I guess the Falcons and Arthur Smith have, because he became the first Atlanta player since 2018 to score 3 touchdowns in a game. None of them on special teams, Greggy.
And he led the team in rushing again, 6 for 34, 5 for 82, and 3. He is like a fantasy juggernaut. And yet you can't help but think, like, wouldn't it be nice if Calvin Ridley and Kyle Pitts were bigger juggernauts? I know they had an okay game today, but it's like,
yeah, I don't think Pitts is yet to find the end zone, and Ridley, who I think a lot of us thought was just going to light it up week after week with Arthur Smith there, just hasn't happened yet. So the Falcons, they head to London to face the Jets, coming off a stomach punch loss. One of those games that
it's too bad because neither of these teams feels like a 2-2 team, but doesn't matter. Washington's got now a little time to figure some things out. They are a 2-2 team.
All right, let's head to Orchard Park. Was it Orchard Park?
Allen pumps once, punts twice, fires it now, caught by Dawson Knox at the 5, and he goes into the end zone. Touchdown, Buffalo.
Dawson Knox with the touchdown. That was just some of the fun the Bills had in this game. John Murphy with the call, WGR. Tremaine Edmonds had one of Buffalo's 4 interceptions, and the Bills, again, just beat up on an overmatched offense. This time the Texans. 40-zip the final. Greg, the Bills held Houston to 109 yards of offense, 8 in the first half, 6 first downs total. It's their second shutout in 3 weeks.
The Texans had negative 23 passing yards in the first half. This may not surprise you, but that was the lowest of any team in any half. in at least 20 years. Yeah, pretty deep into the game, Mills had more interceptions than completions. And, yeah, remember we were talking, it was like a 17.5-point line in this game, and it was like you couldn't make one big enough for Davis Mills against this Bills defense. We'll find out more about this defense next week. They play Kansas City. But I've been really impressed by them. They lose Matt Milano. That hurts, but they have to be feeling great with these 2 blowout wins in a row heading into that big Chiefs game. Yeah,
they're just building momentum. They're building their steam now. That's building here after that tough Week 1 loss. Now they look like the Bills, and that is. We have the Chiefs coming up now, Week 5.
Mm-hmm.
That is
Sunday night.
Beautiful. That's a great game. Can't wait for that one. And I don't know about Houston. I mean, the Texans, they were shaping up early on as a little bit of like a underdog story. Everybody thought they would be the worst team in football, and they're fighting week after week. Well, I mean, the longer Davis Mills is the quarterback, you might just see more of this.
Right. Tyrod is going to miss at least one more week because I believe he's on injured reserve. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but he was expected to miss one more week. They're not going to be competitive as long as Mills is out there. But it's big. Sanders has surprised me. Emmanuel Sanders, week after week, has surprised me by being a pretty clear upgrade from John Brown, and they're just leaving him on the field, and that is a tough group to stop when it's Knox, Sanders, Diggs, and Beasley on the field. That is just maybe the best 3-by-1 set right now in the entire NFL.
That hurts a little bit. Smokey Brown was always,
Yeah,
we were fans of him on this podcast, and but it looks like Sanders has really found a home there. Let's stick with the AFC East, and more trouble for the Dolphins.
Wentz takes a shotgun snap, steps up in the pocket, he throws to the left flat, and it is a catch, a contested grab for Mo Alley Cox. He just wanted it more in the end zone. Touchdown, INDY.
Matt Taylor, WFNI with the call. The Colts are alive, kind of. Carson Wentz threw 2 touchdown passes to Mo Alley Cox. Jonathan Taylor went over the century mark with a score on the ground, and the Colts got their first W of the season, beating the sputtering Dolphins 27-17. Greg, this was a game Indy obviously needed badly. Had they finally find their way to the win column?
Well, sometimes the schedule maker delivers you the right opponent at the right moment.
Yeah.
And I thought the Dolphins were going to win this game, but I realized during this game this was the right opponent at the right time. The Colts did not pass midfield in this game, Dan, until under 5 minutes left in the second quarter, which you would normally think, we're in trouble. But no, it was 3-0 at that point. The Dolphins did not move the ball the whole time. They only got that first touchdown drive, Indianapolis, because the Dolphins lined up offsides on a punt. Otherwise, I think they would have gone into halftime potentially without having crossed midfield. But after that point, it was one-way traffic. It was the Colts team you kind of expected to see if you're an optimist going into the season. Jonathan Taylor really ran the ball well. They pushed them around for about 3 straight drives. Carson Wentz made good decisions. They actually hit some big plays down the field, some to their tight ends. One to Jack Doyle was big. The Mo Alley Cox made a couple plays. Pascal had 141-yarder. It was enough. It was clean, and the Dolphins' offense was just an absolute train wreck for most of this game. You'll look at the stats and see they got 200 yards and 13 first downs. You'd be like, ooh, that's ugly. But that's only with 2 garbage time touchdowns. They barely moved the ball for about 3 quarters. I think they had 6 first downs and were averaging about 2 yards per play against this Colts defense, which until this game had really been struggling up until the fourth quarter, and the game was over by then.
I mean, Jake Brisket is who he is, but he's also a very capable backup quarterback, and we don't know what Tua is, and we don't know when Tua is going to be back. So this is what it is for the time being. But, you look at I know there's not a lot there running back, or it's hard to say what they have there. But Devontae Parker, Mike Gesicki, you have Jalen Waddle there, Will Fuller, who I think hurt himself again in this game. There should be more explosiveness on offense, but we just haven't seen it.
Well, they're so afraid to do these deep dropbacks because their offensive line has been so bad. And the offensive line today was not necessarily the problem. But they kind of max protected, from what I could see, did everything they could to sell out and protect Jacoby, and they They couldn't scheme guys open. He held the ball for a while. It was tough watch. This would be a game. I know we're going to London.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough to get in all the Game Pass games.
Right.
But they have those, 8-minute version highlights or something. I mean, if you were going to choose
one
game for that, this was not a fun watch.
So it's that type of game. Okay, and how did Carson Wentz move, by the way? How was he looking?
Better
physically?
than last week, but not great. They actually they had a called run early in the game because they weren't respecting it, and he picked up about 11 yards, and it took a while.
Like, ow, 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 ow,
you were just
ow,
like,
ow,
slide, and then he's the worst slider ever. He dives head first. And because the rule is now that's giving yourself up, you can't fumble. But this is at least the second, maybe the third time where he just dives on the ground like a big galoof, and then he fumbles the ball. But it doesn't count as a fumble because you're
Some
giving
guys
yourself
just don't know. And I think a lot of times it ties into their youth. If you played baseball growing up, you know how to slide. If you didn't play baseball, I wouldn't say a lot, but there's certain guys. I think RG3 comes to mind. Didn't RG3?
He couldn't slide. It would drive West
Didn't
crazy.
they bring then Yankees manager Joe Girardi in for a session? I remember writing an Around the League post about that. That's the situation. But, yeah, the Colts obviously are still in trouble, but just like the Titans, it's the AFC South. So being 1-3 isn't a death sentence. At Baltimore next week is going to be tough, but then you get Houston at home. Who knows? If you find a way to beat the Ravens, who have been a little inconsistent at times this year, you could be 3-3 and on your feet.
The defense showed up. We'll see. It was one game, but this is what Steve Weiss was saying coming into this week, maybe that the defenses are going to start turning the corner a little bit. Like, if I'm a Packers fan or I'm a Colts fan, you saw your defense squeeze bad offenses, and you're thinking, okay, maybe they're going to be okay, at least average.
All right, let's take a quick break and then welcome in Kevin Patra.
Clock at 6-5. Going to turn and hand to Collins, who finds some running room and break free. 10, 5, he is in! Flips at the goal line, touchdown! Seahawks! Alex Collins is going to do his Irish dance, and well he should!
Oh! Patra, it's bongos time, baby. Let's go.
Patra's like, I don't mess with those bongos.
Look at that. Alex Collins. He scores. He does his Irish jig. And the Seattle Seahawks coast to a 28-21 victory over the Niners. Now, that score doesn't tell you coast, but it was. They were in control of this game, Patrick.
Can I actually at first, I need to go on the record apologizing to Erica for last week for making her go back and bleep out my swearing tirade.
It's
now,
okay.
mind you, I'm not apologizing for saying those words, just the work that she had to extra put in.
Okay.
Right.
I blame
Fair.
FCC
We
for not
we
letting
call that we call that Kevin Patra salt of the earth tax, and we know there will be some cleanup. But
hey, it wasn't.
No, Greg.
Patra had a classic performance at the Super Bowl 6 years ago that we still talk about.
Oh, right, that's right. Well, Patra, we like him though. He's shooting from the hip, as they say.
I don't even remember what game you're covering at this point.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Patra.
The barn burner in San Francisco. I mean, it was really a tale of the 49ers not taking advantage of early opportunities to bury Seattle, who could not get off the ground to start the game. 5 3-and-outs to start, negative 12 yards total offense in the first 5 possessions. And the 49ers zoom right down behind Jimmy G, score a touchdown. You're thinking this could get ugly for Seattle. And then it completely flipped. Seattle it's 21 straight points. It's at one point in the second half or the third quarter. And it just felt like it was over. Trey Lance took over in the second half, and he couldn't do anything. Couldn't get anything going other than one huge play.
And this is just the beginning for Trey Lance now, and this might be the official handoff, because even though he didn't really heat up in this game and probably has a lot of work to do in terms of learning the offense and getting comfortable at this level, Jimmy Garoppolo suffered a calf injury, and he was pretty despondent after the game. He said he anticipates being out a couple of weeks.
Ooh.
You got the Cardinals coming up here for the Niners, and it just seems like now, Patra, if Lance can put together any type of momentum over the next couple of weeks, this will be the torch being passed. How confident are you that he'll be able to build off this game, because there were some moments scattered in this game of positive nature for him.
Yeah, when he saw the throw and he unleashed it, he's got a cannon, and he had 179-yard touchdown on a busted play. It's just he felt a little hesitant to me, like to pull the trigger. Like coming in at halftime, he just doesn't seem ready. Like he was thrust into a situation that he wasn't ready for. The game plan didn't really fit his skill set. It kind of was like, oh, these are the 4 QB run plays that we have in the playbook for today, so we're going to run them. But it wasn't a Shanahan with a mobile RG3 quarterback that we saw. I mean, Shanahan said after the game he looked like a quarterback in his first, opportunity. But I'm having RG3 flashbacks to his first opportunity and go like destroying the Cowboys and such.
But that was with a week to prepare, and Shanahan did point out
so
that this was the game plan for Jimmy G. It was Trey Lance behind center the whole time, and they were not really running the type of offense you would expect for Lance. It's a strange game because I'm just looking at the possessions and everything. Seattle had 7 3-and-outs. They only had 234 yards in this game. Explain that one for me.
They got outgained by 200 yards. Oh yeah, when you have 5 3-and-outs to start the game, of course you're. They only really had 2 good possessions. Because one of their touchdowns came after San Francisco imploding on special teams and fumbling a kickoff. And Wilson made a Houdini type play to get out of a almost sure sack and threw a touchdown, and that put them up 2 scores. And then they took the foot off the gas. And the next drive after that, they scored again, but it was thanks to a huge penalty. So they really only had 2 good drives the whole game. The rest of it was 4 yards in a cloud of dust. Russ couldn't really get anything going. He had a lot of passes behind receivers. Guys weren't making plays. The offensive line struggled to block for the most part. Alex Collins was probably the most impressive Seahawks offensive player in the game.
Wow.
And honestly, that's what I saw. He was running through guys, and that touchdown that you called in the beginning, I don't think he was touched. And he just bobbed and weaved his way to the end zone. He's a fun player to root for, given what his history. But overall, I would say the whole game was kind of this kind of trippy experience because neither team looked like they were revving up for a playoff, to be honest with you.
And I know that's game script and the number of possessions and all that, and you said Wilson played a role in that as well in terms of their ineffectiveness. But I just wonder in 10 years or 15 years when Russell Wilson is retired, will Seahawks fans look back and be like, I can't believe there's so many games when Russell Wilson threw 23 passes in the entire game? Don't you want to have an offense where you just – I don't want to get back into the let's Russ cook debate, but their need to establish the run no matter what, it's just frustrating when you hear about an offense that really has not been in gear the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I don't think you can make these big sweeping generalizations after the first month. But one of my biggest takeaways just from the first month is that the Seahawks and the 49ers really do look like they've got some ground to make up. Obviously, they do in the standings. 2 games now, they're behind Arizona and 1 to the Rams. But just in terms of the firepower and everything that we thought coming into the season, Arizona and Los Angeles just look like better teams. And Seattle and San Francisco were teams that had Super Bowl aspirations coming into the season. They're going to have to be a lot different, Patrick, I think, in the next couple of months.
Been very unimpressed with Shanahan's offense so far. We'll see if that changes.
I know.
Yes, agreed.
I think we're all excited to see what can happen with a new quarterback, but it's not necessarily going to be a magic elixir and they're going to be humming, but maybe they will. That's the fun thing. We get to watch and find out. All right, let's close it out, Patra, with some Lions football.
Oh, yeah. I like it how it's Lions football, not Bears football.
Snap, play fake. Nope, they hand
That's
it
a
off. Montgomery
too.
cutting
That's
inside,
respect
dodging
for
one tackler,
Patrick.
still on his feet as he rumbles, and he's in to the end zone for the touchdown. That's all David Montgomery. That is second effort, 9 yards, far side of the end zone. Touchdown, Bears.
Jeff Joniak, WBBM. David Montgomery ran for 106 and 2 scores before leaving with a knee injury. And the Bears followed their nightmare Week 3 with scores on their first 2 possessions in a 24-14 win over the Lions. Patra, you were, and that's it was the work of Ricky and the edit to clean up your language. But I know, because I follow these things on social media, that the listeners, they like the passion that you brought to that the Bears conversation last week and how hideous they were as an operation against the Browns. Did you see gains for this offense? Did you see gains for Justin Fields and Matt Nagy and the whole experience as a whole?
Well, playing the worst defense in the NFL certainly helps, right? Finally,
It has to.
You run over a dead horse. It's easy. There shouldn't be one starter on the Lions that plays for another team. So
Whoa.
I think that this was a perfect situation. And when we looked at the schedule, when Nagy kept saying, I want Dalton to start, I want Dalton to start, I want to start. You looked at the schedule and you're like, okay, week 4 should be Fields. They'll get through the Browns. Dalton will probably get destroyed, and then he'll have an excuse to go to Fields, right? So would have been the perfect opening script for Justin Fields. My issue with Nagy was last week he didn't adjust when that plan went awry. He didn't change anything. This week we saw more motions. Fields got out of the pocket. He had all day for some throws to make, and it was beautiful. He made some gorgeous throws, deep throws. Finally, this offense stretched the field. He had 9 of 10 passes, completed 9 of 10 passes over 10 yards. Dalton had 2 for his first game and a half. So this was just a completely different offense we saw, with Fields actually running vertical threat, and Darnell Mooney, was awesome to see that aspect of the game come into it, because that's where he thrives, going downfield. And I think we're going to see more. We should see more from this, especially against the worst pass rush defenses when he's got time to throw.
Well, that's a rough statement, saying that no one on their defense should start for any other teams. And then I went through the list, and Romeo Okwara, of course, would, but he was lost to what sounds like a season-ending Achilles injury in this game. And then I went through the other 10, and you could make the argument, Patra. You really could, which is absolutely crazy. I found it funny that, it was a better day, a more sensible day for the Bears offense, and then after the game, there's still so much negativity. Montgomery gets hurt for the Bears, and then Nagy has to answer these questions about Bill Lazor now calling the plays, and you could tell he was getting upset about it. Who's getting the credit? And he was like, well, it still goes through me. And then he also said, well, and I'm not going to answer any questions about who's calling the plays anymore. It's not what you want on a winning day. That is tough.
It's not what you
That's his own fault for playing this whole game where I'm not going to tell you scheme. It's his own fault. He's buried himself multiple times. He had a chance all week to say, starting Fields, we have confidence in this kid, and he didn't take it, He's just made every wrong decision there is. This game doesn't change that. They looked good against a bad team that kept shooting themselves in the foot the whole day. If we want to flip to the Lions and how you can get inside the 10-yard line in your first 3 drives and score 0 points because you're that type of team. Jared Goff has 2 fumbles, and then he throws it 35 miles in the air over a guy's head on 4th down. And that's the kind of game it was. I just think what my main takeaway is Justin Fields showed what kind of player he can be with his arm, with his elusiveness. He only got hit 3 times, sacked once. So this was the type of game that you wanted to see, not the last week game, you statuesque in the pocket.
I in a lot of ways I see Matt Nagy as this season's version of Adam Gase, and it reminds me of late last season when Gase was talking about whether he had the play calling for the Jets over Loggins, and then it was said that no, I didn't. I'm not calling the plays. And like, well, we watched you on the sideline, and the camera was on you, and you were calling the plays, and Loggins wasn't doing anything. And he's like, hamana. It's that's where the Bears are as a team right now, just waiting to move on to the next coach. It feels like sometimes.
Yeah, and it's bad because I just don't think that's the right thing for this quarterback. I don't know. I'm giving the next 4 or 5.
You're 2-2, Bears fans. I know it's a lot of negativity, but you are 2-2.
It's true.
And you have a good quarterback. You finally have a freaking good quarterback if the coach can just figure out how to use him properly the rest of the way against good defense.
All right, K-Pat, thank you, buddy. No bleeps needed. All fire. No expletives. Thanks, dude.
Tried.
See, you were being nice to Ricky. She was being nice to you, trying to lock up your Lions, and just like I love all the love in the air.
To love it. Oh, Rick.
I did it for you, Patra. I really
next time ask me. I would have told you don't do that.
What, Ricky? What are you doing?
Jared Goff outside.
Yeah.
No,
it's a mental game because Greg doesn't want me to play, and I'm still gonna beat him. You wait. I'm. What do they call it when you in Ted Lasso where he's like, you never asked me if I played darts.
Yeah.
You never asked me if I play locks, so you just wait.
Oh wow.
Are you talking trash with being at 0-3?
Yeah, this is
I think you were 5-15 last year or something. Like a coin flip would do better.
I think it's getting to the point where we've seen enough, Erica, to know that you're really bad at this.
I try to pick with the smallest
Don't.
spreads.
Don't.
No,
There's no victories in that. Just try to get it right. Stay within, as long as you stay within 7 points of a favorite.
All right.
Start being a little more conservative because this isn't working. Taking the Lions on the road is just no way to live.
It was a popular pick this week, but it didn't
well,
work.
let's show you what the popular
popular pick
opinion leads you sometimes. All right. Thank you, Patra.
We love you, Patra.
Appreciate
Thank
you, guys.
you, Ricky, for everything today. And thank you to the listeners for sticking with us. We will be in London. We do have perhaps an opportunity to meet some of you. Check it out. We have a live show, 2 live shows, in fact. One sold out. One, I believe there are some tickets remaining. So go be on the lookout. Where can people get those tickets, by the way?
They're on the Top Secret Comedy Club's website.
All right. Top Secret Comedy Club, plus around the NFL. You should be able to find it. And that's it. We'll be in London, Greg, next time we do a show. I think we're going to be, because of the timing of everything, we will be in the air on Tuesday, so no Tuesday show, but we will have your Week 5 preview show waiting for you in the middle of the week.
A little early with our buddy Neil Reynolds.
Neil Reynolds of Sky Sports and a good friend of the show. We're looking forward to that, and we cannot wait to get back to England, the 3rd trip for the Around the NFL podcast. Unfortunately, with just Greg, Erica, and I, Mark, the decision was to take it easy, take the path to health, and that does not involve flying right now. So, unfortunately, Mark won't be with us, but we are excited still to meet you, the great fans of the UK.
Mark is resting up. He's like doing shadow boxing in his room. He's getting in the best shape of his life. And, when we get back, hopefully, we'll see him and we'll all be back together.
Total body transformation. He's going to be shredded the next time we see him. All right. Good stuff. Last show from America. We're on to England. Thank you to everybody. Until then, this is Dan Hansa signing off for the old boss, Ricky Hollywood, Kevin Patrick coming at you. The Pipe. What a gang. Till next week. Heed the call.